All right, here we go. Let's get it rocking. It's the strategy show, bright and early Tuesday morning. We'll make sure that we're actually live here. We should be live. There we go. Good morning. Glad to be with you. Dave Locker and Adam Shar filling in for Josh Engelman. He'll be back tomorrow, for anybody wondering. He will be back with us tomorrow. Adam, how you doing this lovely morning?
Pretty good, man. Nothing I like more than waking up and talking basketball.
Yeah, I'd prefer to wake up a little later, but you know what? It's not too bad. I'll tell you, a little quick recap on yesterday's slate. The Julius Randle, Nikola Mirotic news was big. Alonzo Trier finished with 3.5 fantasy points for anyone that decided to pivot onto him off of Moutier. What else did we have here? Stephen Curry played 29 minutes. In those 29 minutes, certainly wasn't bad. Hit almost all of his shots, 6 for 10 from 3, but that game washed out, and he didn't really need to get a ton of run. Tristan Thompson ended up doing exactly what we needed from him, and Enes Kanter played only 25 minutes, so there was a lot that went right, a lot that went wrong. One thing that did go right, Kevon Looney got nice run at the 5 and a really good game. It just goes to show you that when players like that get minutes at the 5 instead of the 4 on the Warriors, they become so much more productive, even if not playing a ton of minutes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with Looney, it was a question of how many minutes he would play, but it was good to see him, go out there and be productive.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it before, though. Guys like Zaza Pachulia, JaVale McGee, Damian Jones, stick them at the 5, put them around the basket. They have a lot more upside than they would at the 4. And he had a decent game, but Nikola Jokic got off the schneid. Of course, it came against the Toronto Raptors. He triple-doubled. I think he had 20, 10, and 12 or something crazy like that. Really big game. Anything else you're taking away from yesterday that's worth talking about for today? Because I actually don't think we have any teams on the second of a back-to-back today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't have anything to do with today, but I just feel like I should apologize to everyone for putting them on one of the worst plays of the slate in Bradley Beal, who only went for 27 yesterday.
I love it. I was talking about that on Twitter yesterday. That someone mentioned he was one of the worst plays on the slate. God, I hate 50+ fantasy points from a $7,900 player. We'll do better next time. Jakari's vlog says Enes Kanter doesn't get minutes versus stretch bigs. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Keith's not really he is a stretch big, but he's not the kind of guy that Kanter normally would be losing minutes against.
He's not the kind of guy that's blowing him off the floor by jacking up 13 threes a game. It just does. I don't know. Look, it's David Fizdale. What are you going to do? I mean, Morris played only 23 minutes anyway. So, and he only attempted 3 3-pointers.
Yeah, I mean, the Wizards actually played bigger than normal. They played 24 minutes of Bryant plus Mahinmi.
Right. Exactly. I don't think that had a whole lot to do with it. I think it was just that Fizdale did his thing. I mean, another thing though, it's funny because Kanter had 13 and 16. He shot 6 for 10 in 25 minutes. Right. Once again, you have him out there and he was averaging 1.56 fantasy points per minute. The production was there once again. You just never know when the minutes are going to be there or not. And they weren't there yesterday. I mean, look, yeah, Washington definitely plays smaller, but half of their game had bigs, had traditional 5s out there. And the other half of the game, I don't know, it doesn't seem like Markieff Morris is the type of guy to actually take someone like Kanter off the floor. But yeah, whatever. What are you going to do? All right. You want to talk some basketball here?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. We'll go game by game as we always do. We're not going to change the format up. Adam and I will be on with you tonight on the deeper dive too. I'll obviously game by game there too, but we'll have a whole lot more information to discuss. Pacers and Chicago Bulls. And by the way, this is more of a traditional or a preliminary thing. Usually on the night show, the deeper dive, we've been able to do a whole lot more research. Right here, we're going to be doing a lot of the research with you. Apologies, I won't have the fancy screen that Josh has to pull all that good stuff up, but I'll make sure to convey all of that stuff to you, and Adam will as well, with from our lips to your ears. All right. Pacers and Bulls, 8.5 point spread here. Pacers are 8.5 point favorites at home, a 208 total. So not exactly expected to be a barn burner here, a high scoring game, but that's what you've seen with this Indiana team all season long. They're playing at the fourth slowest pace in the league, believe it or not. And then you've got Chicago playing, I think, at a top 10 pace. I could be wrong. No, I'm sorry. Middle of the league. Yeah. 17th. But I'm curious now that Victor Oladipo, and this came as a surprise to many when we got this news a few days back, that he's out indefinitely. It looks like we're going to continue to get good old Tyreke Evans starting at the 2. He is yet, and it's kind of incredible, he is yet to post more than 25 fantasy points in a single start for Victor Oladipo, and he has started 8 games for him.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible and obviously really frustrating. A couple of things that you can, take away, but it's just really difficult to project him going forward. The field goal attempts are still there. He's still getting double-digit field goal attempts. He's shooting incredibly bad by his standards. He's having a bad shooting year as it is, but during this stretch, he's been even worse than for the season overall. But the minutes are just so difficult to predict because it had kind of seemed like when he's playing well, he would get 28, 29 minutes. And when he's not playing well, you would see guys like Corey Joseph and, Bogdanovich and Collison closing over him. But then you go and you look at the Kings game, and from a fantasy standpoint, Evans wasn't great, but he played 29 minutes in 3 quarters. Didn't step on the floor in the fourth.
How many times, dude? How many times have we? I'm on board with you. We had the same thought process every time. But how many times have we said this exact same thing?
Yeah, no. But what I'm saying is this was actually an example of a close game where he was playing well and he still didn't play in the fourth.
Oh, got you. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sure. It makes sense. He got more minutes than he had been, but you're right. It's not like he closed the game out. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it ended up being a 1-point game where the Pacers actually blew a lead in the fourth quarter. So it's not like the unit out there was playing really well. Right. Evans finished, obviously plus minus is a very flawed stat, but Evans finished with the second highest plus minus on the Pacers at plus 11 and didn't step foot on the fourth quarter or on the floor in the fourth quarter. So it just reinforces how difficult this rotation is to predict and the risks that you're taking with Evans on top of the fact that he just kind of sucks right now. That being said, everyone realizes how bad he's been, and I think there's still upside there. So I don't hate him on a 5-game slate. Just so much can go wrong.
Yeah. It's kind of, and you're right. It was important to see that. I thought you were saying, what we've been saying about him, but
right.
It's a valid point. He's shooting 31% since entering the starting line. I'm including the Atlanta game on the 17th where Oladipo only played 4 minutes, right? But it's really remarkable. I mean, here's his shooting since he came into the starting lineup: 4 for 12, 3 for 12, 4 for 8, 1 for 12, 5 of 10. 3 for 10, 2 for 10, and 5 of 12. I mean, that's remarkably bad shooting, even for a guy like Tyreke Evans. So what I want to look up right now is, if you're familiar with Tyreke Evans' game, this is somebody who, during his best years, took most of his shots, and I mean the large majority of his shots, from around 3 feet from the basket. Right. This is the truth. There was actually an article out on Evans like 4 years ago where Evans, even on his misses at the basket, I'm not making this up, it was when he was with the Pelicans, it actually benefited the Pelicans because they had some ridiculous number. They had like a 70% putback rate on Tyreek Evans misses at the rim. You realize how crazy that is?
Yeah, that's insane.
It's nuts, right? So I just pull this up. Check this out. In 2013, 57% of his shots were within 3 feet of the basket, 54% the next year, 51% the following year. And then it went down to 40%. And then 41% last year. This year, 32% of Tyreek Evans' field goal attempts are coming at the basket. If you're wondering where this could be coming from, I'm telling you right now, this has a lot to do with it. The fact that he went from taking 57, 54, even 51% of his field goal attempts at the rim to 32% of those shots at the rim. For a guy like Evans, who's never been a good shooter, it makes a big difference. And it should come as no surprise to anyone that his best shooting year came when he was taking so many shots from within a few feet of the basket.
Yeah, and on top of that, just obviously this doesn't have anything to do with his shooting, but I'm pulling it up now, but I checked a game or two ago. In the stretch since Oladipo has been out, you're also seeing Evans come in like 4th on the team in potential assists. So, he's out there with other distributors, and it's kind of taking the ball out of his hands in that regard as well, which makes him more scoring dependent than, we normally see. And as you just pointed out, he's not shooting at the rim, so his field goal percentage is going down. So kind of just a really bad combination, of everything. A lot of things working against him right now.
There are a lot of things working against him. I just find it. I'm curious why he isn't attacking the rim. You know what else would be interesting to see is Tyreek Evans is always when he was getting the minutes, right? Like when he was playing 30 plus minutes per game. I've always been curious to see what his drive rate is, because this is a guy that was notorious for driving to the rack, and he would do so at will. So let's see this season, since he took over as the starter, because I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on with him. And it may just, it really might just be that he's struggling and he sucks now, but let's 5.8 drives per game. 5.8 drives per game. That's terrible. Oh God. Last year, Evans, who was he with last year? I don't even remember. What team was Evans with last year? Remember?
No, actually I don't.
Last year, Evans averaged 12.4 drives per game. Now, granted, he's playing less minutes, but I did this since he started this year for Oladipo, so his minutes have gone up. 5 drives per game, 12.5. So he's just been far less aggressive. And I'm telling you right now, that has a lot to do with it. I'd much rather Tyreek Evans stop shooting threes and drive to the rack than stop being aggressive. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But
yeah. And I have the potential assist numbers up now. Since Oladipo's injury, you have Darren Collison with a little over 13 potential assists per 36 minutes. Corey Joseph's at 11.5. Sabonis is at 8.75. And then you have Tyreek at 6 potential assists per 36 minutes. So, that's something else where in a lot of times if you run numbers without Oladipo on the floor, you're expecting Evans to have the ball in his hands a lot. And it's just something you would expect based on prior seasons, but we're just not really seeing it right now with this team.
Exactly. What do you make of the rest of this squad? I mean, Domantas Sabonis continues to defy the doubters. He continues to defy logic and silence the doubters with big game after big game. Last time out, he struggled. He had 5 fouls in 24 minutes as well, 7 turnovers. He had more turnovers than points. But prior to that, all we were getting is excellent production from this guy. Price point is up there. It's come down a little bit since last time. He's facing the Bulls, a Bulls team that will, in fact, be starting Lauri Markkanen today. Jabari Parker going back to the bench. But we'll finish out with the Pacers squad. What do you have here outside of Tyreek Evans?
I'm interested in the front court. You mentioned Sabonis, and there's obvious risk that comes with him just because it's pretty infrequent that he plays more than 24 to 26 minutes. And when you're talking about someone with a $7,200 price tag, obviously anything going wrong during those those minutes leads to him not having a good game. But the opportunity is there, without Oladipo, averaging nearly 1.5 fantasy points per minute. Usage is up around 25%. Rebounding percentage is up around 25%. Assist percentage, I actually think regresses a bit, but based on his potential assist numbers, I still think ends up coming in around 20%. So you have him just out there being incredibly productive on a permanent basis. And then this is a Chicago team that is one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. And Sabonis is a very good rebounder. So, I think that he's obviously not someone you want to look to in cash games, only playing 24 to 26 minutes, but we know he can go out there and throw up 45, 50 fantasy points in 24, 26 minutes. So I think he's appealing. And Miles Turner as well. His minutes are more solidified than Sabonis. Like, he should probably play around 30, assuming no foul trouble and that everything goes, as planned. But he's averaging 1.1 fantasy points per minute without Oladipo as well. Gets obviously that same great matchup against the Chicago front court. So I like the bigs here quite a bit.
Yeah, so do I. Kevin Marciano said, this whole time I thought Lafayette had earrings. Nah, these are AirPods, man. These are the best things in the world, by the way. I highly advise anyone that needs to use headphones for anything to get these. If you need them, if you use them throughout the day, they're not cheap, but they're well worth it. And you will certainly enjoy them. I did have earrings. I was playing a hockey game a couple months ago and I got smoked and both of them popped out of my head and I never found them again. So I just decided to leave them out. Plus I'm 31 now,
Yeah. I was going to say I had them too. I think I stopped wearing them when I graduated college.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really care.
Actually, that's a lie. I think I probably wore them until law school.
Yeah.
I looked really out of place if I wore them there.
Right. People can say I don't care. I just haven't got around to putting them back in. But no, these are AirPods and they're phenomenal. So yeah, I guess, and obviously you and I we'll do a whole lot more research throughout the day and then come back, regroup for tonight's show, deeper dive live before lock after that as well. Right now you just get this foundational look. And I think right now with somebody like Miles Turner, you're definitely considering him against Chicago. With Lauri Markkanen slotted into the starting lineup as we move over to the Bulls side, it's interesting because, yes, Jabari Parker's defense should make Sabonis' life easier, but it's not like Lauri Markkanen is a stout defender either. So, it's not like moving from one to the other, I think, in terms of a defensive matchup is that big of a difference.
No, and I agree with you. Markkanen being in the lineup, I think, affects the Bulls much more than I'm projecting it to affect Indiana.
Yeah, well, let's talk about how he affects them. Markkanen last season was attempting 5.9 3-pointers per game. That was in around 30 minutes per game. So he's definitely a long-range guy, clear stretch four. I mean, that's just what he does. But if you're not a stretch four these days, you're playing 20 minutes per game anyway. So how do you see him affecting the minutes here and the rotation? He played 26 minutes in his first game back. So we can break down that rotation a little bit and assume he'll probably play 30 minutes in the starting lineup tonight.
Right. I think seeing 26 minutes in his first game back was, really important to see because there were conflicting reports out there. You had some Chicago papers speculating he was going to play 15 to 20 minutes. It was really difficult to get an actual answer on what he was going to play. So it's nice having that information, and it's nice that he played 26 and we're not trying to guess, how many more minutes to give him tonight. I think pretty clearly you can project him for, at least 30 minutes here. Especially because he's coming off an elbow injury. So it's not like it was a lower body injury where he's like working his way back. Moving into the starting lineup obviously helps to solidify his minutes as well. And the price tag's still reasonable. He's not $3,500 on FanDuel anymore, but still low $5,000 range, sitting at $5,400 on DraftKings in, a pretty decent matchup here. He's a guy that if I get him in my lineups, I'm not going to be upset about it. I don't think he's, like a lock or anything of that nature, but, I do expect him to play 30 plus minutes, and it moves Jabari Parker back to the bench, which while Parker still certainly can be productive on a per minute basis, there's no reason to think that his per minute productivity decreases. He does lose playing time. I mean, we'd seen Jabari at times playing 38 minutes in games, normally playing 34 to 36. I think now it's more likely he comes in around the 30-minute mark, which just means that he has to be extra efficient to pay off his price tag. And that's not really Jabari Parker's game. So it takes a lot of shine off of Parker for me, who's been someone that I was rostering pretty much every night.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, of course, Jabari Parker waited to play his best basketball till like 10 days before Markkanen returned from injury. But a couple things to note here. Number one, Lauri Markkanen's $5,400, played 26 minutes, and this is kind of just following up on what you just said. Lauri Markkanen's $5,400 on DraftKings. He played 26 minutes in his first game back after not playing at all through the first 1.5 months. They have a new coach. So it's going to be very interesting to see what things look like. Now, Fred Hoiberg was fired. So their last game was on the 1st, and wasn't Fred Hoiberg fired yesterday morning?
Yeah.
So right, they haven't played without Hoiberg at the helm. So now we've got who do we have? Jim Boylan. Yeah, I feel like he's been the interim coach for a lot of teams as well. But now you have Jim Boylan in here, who you have to imagine after saying, all right, well, Hoiberg put Markkanen off the bench in his first game. We know immediately that Markkanen's starting. So there's no reason to me to assume that if he's shooting into the starting lineup after his first game back and Hoiberg's gone, there's no reason for me to suspect that he's not going to play 30 minutes here. A 4-minute uptick from your first game back playing 26 minutes is not hard to do. $5,400 on DraftKings, Adam, is pretty cheap. And then over on FanDuel, Lauri Markkanen, also power forward eligible, is $6,200. If I missed it, tell me. I was reading our chat, but is there interest in this price point for Markkanen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's expensive enough where I'm not just looking to smash him in the lineups, but I think that he's a perfectly fine play, and if I get him, I get him. One kind of subtle thing to point out, though, as far as his minutes go, that I think is really positive is he played between 25 and 26 minutes last game, as we said. But if you actually go on Popcorn Machine and you look at where he got his minutes, all the main players for the Bulls subbed out with about 3.5-4 minutes to go in a non-competitive game. Lauri Markkanen stayed in. He played until there were 30 seconds left in the game. So they kept Markkanen on the floor in a non-competitive game, essentially to get him more minutes, which just signifies that they really are not concerned about, it's not like they're concerned about the injury. They're just trying to get him conditioning. They got him up to 26 minutes intentionally. They didn't need to have him out there. So I just think it signals that the minutes are even more secure today.
Robin Lopez was actually playing 20 plus minutes per night, and he only played 8 minutes in that game. Wouldn't be surprised if he basically is in a sub 10-minute role going forward. Felicio's role is pretty much nixed at this point. And granted, look, a lot of that is contingent on Wendell Carter's minutes. I understand that, but looking at the big man rotation, now you've got Jabari Parker, you got Lauri Markkanen. Now, Bobby Portis is expected back pretty soon, so I would expect him back by next week or so. We don't have to worry about that today, but you've got Parker, you've got Markkanen, you've got Wendell Carter, and you've got Robin Lopez and Felicio, of course. But I think so. This is what's tough, because you still want to get Parker his minutes, but I would say Parker plays like 26 minutes off the bench, maybe 28. Markkanen gets 30. Who do you think? Do you think one of them sees some minutes at the 5?
That's what I was trying to figure it out, because I'm looking at that game against Houston, and you mentioned Lopez only playing 8 minutes. Carter played 33. So there's a few minutes at center that someone not named Lopez, Felicio, or Carter played. But I'm
Right.
trying
We
to
don't know
remember.
exactly who.
It was
Exactly.
Parker. It was Parker.
Was it Parker?
Or Markkanen,
Okay.
whichever. Yeah. They had a few minutes of a Shaq Harrison, Hutchison, Payne, Markkanen, Parker lineup.
Okay. Yeah, you're
So
right.
yes, I think that that's certainly a possibility. Especially against Indiana. Like there's no reason they can't do it.
No, exactly. Yeah, to start the second quarter, it was Harrison, Hutchison, Payne, Markkanen, and Parker. Yeah, so I think you'll see more of that, which bodes well for Mark. Now, granted, Hoiberg's not there anymore, so we're just speculating. But I don't think it's crazy to think that we could see some of this, especially Adam, given the fact that you're facing this Indy team that is going to be running minutes with Sabonis at the 5 too.
Right. Yeah. There's no reason for them not to be able to do it here if that's what they want to do. And like you said, we have no idea if that's what they want to do. But just kind of logically thinking about it, if I had to bet on if a new interim coach is going to continue playing Robin Lopez 18 minutes a night, or if he's going to find ways to, maybe creatively get more minutes for guys like Jabari Parker and Lauri Markkanen, my money would be on him going the latter route.
Me too. Yeah. This Bulls team is probably going to change quite a bit soon. Chris Dunn's expected back, probably within the next week or so. Bobby Portis coming back. So, get it while the getting's good. Zach LaVine is still affordably priced. He's 8,400. I was loving him at 7,800, but he's 8,400. We haven't gotten to all of these other 4 games yet. So obviously right now we don't really have much to compare it to, but you got him at 8,400. Justin Holiday, who, has been pretty effective in close games. That's the big thing for Holiday because he needs the minutes. He's never going to be a stellar per minute producer, right? You even look at like recently how good he's been, and he is still on the season. Justin Holiday is still producing fantasy points at 0.79 per minute. So that's not who he is. He needs to get run. If you're getting Justin Holiday in a blowout, it's probably not going to do you much good. But the big thing is he's also taking a ton of threes recently, which bolsters his upside. I won't say his floor, but certainly his ceiling, because he could go out and just miss them all. But if he's going to be taking more shots and more threes, that's interesting. The problem now is that you have somebody like Markkanen that can do that. He'll still get some work, but it'll be interesting to see what Holiday's role is now that you have Boylan at the helm. And now that you have Markkanen in the starting lineup, there are question marks, and Holiday is one of those guys that I'm not necessarily sure how his role is going to change going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Completely guessing, but I am concerned about Holiday from a fantasy standpoint, just because, like you said, he's someone that you really need playing a maximum number of minutes, especially now that his price tag.
All those 37, 40 minutes. You need
right.
all.
Right. And it's just hard to expect him to play that many now. I think it's more likely that you get him in like the 32 to 34 minute range, which when his price tag falls back to like 4,400 will start being interesting. But now that he's up in that, mid 5K range, it just projects him as a guy that's not really that good.
Right. And the Pacers, despite the loss of Oladipo, still are not the worst team defensively in the league. This is still a team that'll make you earn a win. And looking at the Pacers, since Oladipo's been out, they are playing at a middle of the road pace, 14th in the league. And then their defensive rating without Oladipo, believe it or not, they still have a top 5 defensive rating over that span, Adam. So still a defense that as a unit works really well. And I think that happens when you have guys like Thad Young, who, is basically just purely a defensive guy now, and Corey Joseph and Miles Turner. This is still a good defensive unit.
Yeah, for sure. And they play slow. So it's just not a super appealing spot. Going back to LaVine, I think that he's always in play just because he goes out there and chucks up so many shots. And you would really like to have him on the day where he, accidentally makes 65% of them. But It's not someone you can really prioritize now that his price tags come up. For me, the only guy that I actually want to prioritize from this team is Wendell Carter. 4,800 on DraftKings. 2 games in a row now, we've actually seen big minutes from him. we had talked a lot before that it was very difficult to look at his game logs and apply any sort of like predictive value to them because it seemed like he was always either in foul trouble, in a blowout, or in both. But we've seen 2 games in a row now where he hasn't gotten in foul trouble, played 32 minutes in the first one, played 33 last game, and lost 4 minutes to a blowout. So actually was on pace to play even more. I think that at 4,800 on DraftKings, only center eligible there, but 4,800 is a really nice price tag for a guy that averages a fantasy point per minute. And then I think we can project, assuming the game stays competitive, 32 to 34 minutes for him. And then on FanDuel, obviously power forward eligible. So even though the price tag's a little bit higher, it's a more appealing position.
I'm with you. Wendell Carter's a guy at 4,800 that I have no issue whatsoever going back to. Is there some concerns with the foul trouble? Sure. But I saw a comment in chat that Miles Turner defense is too good for Wendell Carter. Well, I don't really look at it that way because when Wendell Carter has a good game, especially at 4,800, it's going to be coming off of rebounds and block shots and stuff. And Turner is a decent rebounder. He's not spectacular by any means. Wendell Carter is the type of guy that when you get that big game, it's on like 15 points and the rest of it is peripherals, and he's capable of doing so. Right. I get it. He had 28 points against Detroit, but that's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
So,
he can pick up assists too. Like he's just a well-rounded offensive player. Right. That he's not one of these guys that you need to go out there and, especially at a really cheap price tag. It's not like you need him to go out there and score 25 actual points. He can get it done in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, rookie bigs struggling with foul trouble this year. Jaren Jackson averaging 5.6 fouls per 36. Carter Jr. at 5 fouls per 36. Mitchell Robinson at 6.8 fouls per 36.
Yeah, Robinson's kind of gone under the radar on that one since he's not fantasy relevant very often, but that's been pretty insane.
Yeah, let's not forget the damn guy was starting until it's like, look, we just can't do this, Mitchell. Right. Mitchell, what are you doing to us?
Yeah. They realize that whether he starts or not, he's playing 14 to 16 minutes a night because he's going to foul out.
Exactly. Didn't he foul out in 9 minutes or 5 fouls in 9 minutes? The other day, they did something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like a day. It was a day or two before the Jaren Jackson 2 fouls in 48 seconds game.
Oh man, it's crazy. Thanks, Sean V. I appreciate that. And hey, if you guys appreciate our content, enjoy the show, hit us with a thumbs up. It helps us more than you would know. It does a lot for the show and for the site. And subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to come back for more. We appreciate all of you. Orlando and Miami. Let's move on here. We spent enough time talking about the Bulls, but it's an interesting scenario with a new head coach. Miami 2.5-point favorites at home, a 208 total here. Let me point out too, Adam, that there's only one game with an over-under above 220. We've got a 208, a 208 and a half, a 219, and a 214. So not exactly a slate that projects to be the highest in scoring outside of that Phoenix and Sacramento game, which I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. But this Miami-Orlando game, I think I said to you the other day, I'm so tired right now of trying to predict which one of these Miami scrubs is going to put up a decent game, whether it be James Johnson or whether it be Rodney McGruder, who's questionable today, or whether it be Justice Winslow, or whether it be, the list goes on, right? Wayne Ellington, Dwayne Wade, all of them, just all of them. And now Tyler Johnson's expected back in the lineup. He's been out for 2 weeks. So that just muddies the water even more. I just hate talking about this Heat team. I really do.
Yeah, I'm actually glad Tyler Johnson's back because
you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right. Like, I don't think he has an impact on, guys like Josh Richardson or Whiteside or anything like that. The guys that I would actually like to roster on fantasy teams occasionally. But for, the other guys, it's less ball handling for Dwayne Wade. It's less ball handling for James Johnson. It's less ball handling for McGruder, for Winslow. It just takes some of the appeal away from all of these wings that are just a total guessing game of how they're going to be utilized. Now at least I don't have to worry about it quite as much.
Someone in chat said Zach LaVine is a black hole. I want to extend that usage of that word to Miami, because Miami's wings, like the whole wing rotation, is a black hole, and it's one that I really have no interest in deciding on what I'm going to do with anymore. Spoelstra played 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He used a 9-man rotation last game, and that was with Magruder playing only 5 minutes. Now you're getting Tyler Johnson back in the lineup. So you have a 10-man rotation there because all of the guys that played last time are going to play. If Magruder plays, that's 10. If he doesn't, it's still probably going to be a 9-man rotation. And then you also have Jones, who will probably also be in the rotation, albeit for maybe, 10 or 15 minutes, maybe less. But that makes it 11 now, Adam. Both of them are probable. So assuming Johnson, Magruder, and Jones all play, the rotation gets bigger, the minutes shrink for certain guys, and they become even less appealing than they already were.
Yeah, and I'm pretty excited about it. So, I mean, it basically just comes down to if you're playing 150 lineups, especially on a 5-game slate, and you want to rotate in some of these guys that are cheap, like, Winslow and Olynyk, guys like that, where if they do happen to get, for one reason or another, get up to 28 minutes or something, they'll probably outperform their price tag pretty easily. Then that's fine. You just have to know that with these bodies coming back and with there being more minutes to spread around, that it just becomes even riskier going to these guys because you're going to get games where they play like 16 minutes, probably more often or just as often as you're getting games where they, play over 24 or 25.
No doubt. I've always been a big fan of Nikola Vucevic. I think he's one of the most underrated and undervalued offensive big men in the entire league. I love his game. But Vucevic is not exactly a defensive stalwart, Adam. He is not really defensively adept whatsoever. And now you've got him matched up against Hassan Whiteside. Mind you, this isn't to say that Vooch can't have a good game. Vooch, in many cases, is actually kind of matchup proof. But I'm not buying into him as a strong defensive body. Hassan Whiteside's coming off of a game. By the way, I think you mentioned him on the show saying that Gobert's defense had lacked this year. I think you did mention that you would have some Whiteside in tournaments. So nice call on that. He went for 23 and 20. Maybe for another day, we'll talk about what the hell is going on with Rudy Gobert. Well, you know what? They're on the slate today. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Yeah. But what are you at? Where are you at with Miami or with the front court specifically and only Hassan Whiteside? I don't even want to talk about anyone else.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. And so Whiteside, it's kind of the same analysis that I feel like we give every time Hassan Whiteside plays. And it's that I want to roster Whiteside when he's not going to be popular and when his price tag is relatively low, because the minutes are just all over the place. He played 34 last game against Utah. He played really well. Any game where Whiteside plays 34 minutes, I expect him to have a huge fantasy game and to outperform, a $7,700 price tag. That's not the question. It's that Miami is splitting. We talked about the wings, how they have so many guys who are productive players and that can take minutes from each other. It's kind of the same thing here at center too. Like you have Whiteside and Bam Adebayo splitting center minutes. Bam Adebayo is not playing minutes alongside Whiteside. Bam Adebayo is a good, productive player. So any game where Bam Adebayo is playing really well and Spoelstra decides to reward him and give him more than 14 to 16 minutes, those minutes are coming directly from Hassan Whiteside. So that on top of, the normal risks of foul trouble, blowout, things like that, it just makes Whiteside a really risky option. But we know that the upside's there. So he's a guy that, I'm fine with in tournaments. I think that it's a perfectly fine matchup for him. If you go back and look at games he's played against Vucevic in the past, the Final Fantasy numbers aren't that great, but if you actually look at it on a per minute basis, which I think is how you have to approach Whiteside because, every season his minutes are just all over the place, he's still been pretty productive. Like you're talking about, scores like 39 fantasy points in 22 minutes, 58 and 36. Some pretty decent games there. The rebounds have been there, which is good, really good to see. So I think it's a fine matchup. You just have to keep in mind all the things that can go wrong on a playing time basis for Whiteside.
Right. Whiteside's never without risk, but at 7,700, he's not without a monster ceiling either. Right. I mean, we've seen Whiteside go 55, 60, or even higher in good spots. 7,700, there is risk, but there's also plenty of room for upside and plenty of room for him to just give you a decent game. You get 42 or something at this price point, you're definitely not upset about it. Also, someone in chat mentioned that Kelly O's seeing an uptick in minutes. Yeah, he did over his last 2 games. My concern here, though, is that like at any moment, James Johnson could close out and play minutes in the fourth because he hasn't over his last few games. And then Kelly Olynyk loses that run, or Johnson and Jones and Magruder are all healthy. And we see the minutes shift upwards where you've got Johnson playing more at the 4 along Whiteside, Winslow at the 3, so on and so forth. For me, outside of Whiteside, there's just so many ways that this rotation can go, and there's so many ways that it can go wrong for me as well.
Yeah, Derek Jones Jr. also directly impacts Olynyk because Olynyk's not playing the 5. Like I said a minute ago, the 5 is Whiteside and Bam Adebayo. So that has no impact on Kelly Olynyk. Olynyk's getting those minutes at the 4. Derek Jones Jr.
That hurts him.
Right. Jones has been playing the 4 all season long. So, even though DFS sites have him classified as, like a 3, he's been playing the 4, and that directly affects Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah, there's a legitimate trickle-down effect here, no doubt. And even with really just kind of a 1-for-1 with Olynyk and Jones as well. But I think if Johnson's minutes come up, if Johnson sees even an additional 5-6 minutes and Jones is back, that like exclusively Olynyk is the one that sees the most negative impact from that.
Right.
All right, let's talk about the Magic here. Miami defensively is still a solid team. Like if there's one thing that I have some respect for, it's the defense here. They're still a top 10 defense. They're kind of similar to Boston in that they'll swarm you. Might not be the most talented guys, but they're just super high energy across 48 minutes, and they'll swarm the hell out of you. And we've seen that a lot this season. They're also, interestingly enough, playing at a top 10 pace, which I haven't heard talked about all that much this year. And I think it's certainly in stark contrast to last year where Miami played at the 4th slowest pace in the league. This year, they're playing at an additional 6 possession per 48. That's a lot, Adam, and I don't hear it talked about enough.
Yeah, I think that they just kind of were the same team for so many years that people just kind of overlook that.
Forget. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, they're playing faster. They're still, effective, but pace when you're talking about DFS, especially, and I know people have, kind of mentioned before, like, why do we talk about pace so much? It's that, when you're talking about counting stats, which is what matters for DFS, the more possessions, pace makes up for inefficiency. So, if I have to choose between taking a guy against a fast team that plays good defense or a slow team that doesn't play good defense, a lot of times it kind of, washes out. So that's why it's so important, and it's really important to note that here.
It is. It's very important. Yeah. And again, now with Miami, I'm talking more about opponents, because even though they're playing at a faster pace, the ball's spread around so much that it just doesn't really do much for me unless they suffer like 5 catastrophic injuries. Then we can talk shop. But that's not the case right now. Actually, they're getting healthy. Hell, and Goran Dragic is still out. When he comes back, it's going to be a total shit show.
Yeah.
So
they're just like a frustrating team, because it's like you don't want any of them except for when they're hurt, and then they're all 35% owned. So there's not even a reason to play them.
Right, exactly. And then the one that ends up being 10% owned is the one that goes off. So it's difficult. Yeah. Any interest in this Orlando team? You can start wherever you'd like. It doesn't matter to me. I actually start with Vooch because his price is up to $9K on DraftKings, and he's the most expensive center on FanDuel at 9,700. So Vucevic across the board, most expensive 5.
Yeah, I mean, I like Vooch. I think the matchup's fine for him. Whiteside, we know he does a good job as a rim protector. He's a good rebounder, but Vucevic also a good rebounder, but he's someone that can pull Whiteside away from the basket. He, can knock down his mid-range shots. He can hit some threes, and Whiteside's not as effective a defender away from the basket. I expect, plenty of open looks for Vucevic. He obviously, leads this team in usage rate. He's their most productive offensive player. And the only real concern for Vooch is that compared to some of the other centers that are normally in his price range, he plays less minutes. Normally you get him around 32, 33 minutes, whereas guys that are priced near him on bigger slates, like, Karl Anthony Towns, play 36 to 38. But that's not the case here. He's the second most expensive player on the slate behind Damian Lillard. There's no real superstars to pay up for, so it's easier to get to Vooch. And you are looking at him more from a raw points perspective than a point per dollar perspective. Like if he's the highest scoring center on the slate, that has value on slates like this where you're not trying to fit in an Anthony Davis or LeBron James. So I do like him quite a bit. And I think that when you talk about the minutes concerns, it's not like Hassan Whiteside, for example, doesn't have minutes concerns. Like Vucevic's 32 is going to be more minutes than Whiteside plays quite frequently. So I think Vuce is really appealing here, despite the concerns over only playing like 32 or 33 minutes.
Agreed. And I said this earlier in the show. Vooch is just one of these guys that he can go out there in difficult matchups and be dominant. It's not a huge issue. You look at Vooch against Hassan Whiteside. Last game he struggled, and I generally don't like going back to look at how they've done against this team because so much can change. But we've seen what Whiteside at the 5 for long enough now. Vooch, his last, let's see, 5 of his last 6 games are 45, 46, 46, 49 and a half, 44 fantasy points, 33, 44, 52. So just pointing out that the guy is very capable, regardless of who he's playing, even if it's Agent Block, of putting up big numbers. It really is the worst nickname in sports. By the way, I just saw that the Steelers activated Trey Edmonds from the practice squad. He's one of their running backs. That's a bit concerning if you're talking about James Conner. If you have James Conner in your fantasy leagues and you made the playoffs, I'm doing it right now. I'm going out and I'm adding Jalen Samuel. Just, think about doing that. Just throwing you a bone there in case we end up getting some bad news, because he left in the fourth quarter last game, and Samuel ended up getting a decent amount of snaps. So hopefully that's not the case. Anyway, Adam, let's keep moving on here. Outside of Vooch, who I agree with you on a 5-game slate, I have no problem going there. Do you have interest in anywhere else here for Orlando?
No. Like the Fournier at 5,300 isn't someone that I'm super excited about. I think it's certainly possible that he has a good game here. Like the price tag's a little bit lower than it probably should be. So on a 5-game slate, he's someone that I could see kind of being the last guy in some lineups. But nothing really with them getting healthier now. There's nothing really that stands out to me.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, Evan Fournier over the first month of the season, his usage was pretty high. Running it right now, over the first month of the season, Fournier had a usage rate, I think it was the second highest on the team. It was, let's see here, it led the team. It was 25.5%. Okay. Now, over the last 3 weeks of the season, his usage is at 20.5. It's down 5%. Vooch's is up 24 to 29 and a half. He's just dominating. Terrence Ross, 24%, second highest on the team. So we've seen a pretty precipitous drop in usage from Evan Fournier. And as you mentioned, now that everyone's getting healthy, now that this team has a decent amount of guys that can get shots up, Fournier's usage has predictably fallen off, but it's fallen off quite a bit. 5.5% is a lot, Adam.
Yeah, it's the Taurean Prince plan.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's talk Dallas and Portland. Dallas Mavericks. It's kind of strange, but this is the case. The Dallas Mavericks this season at home have an offensive rating that ranks 5th best in the league. It's basically the same as the Raptors and the Warriors and the Nuggets. On the road this year, the Dallas Mavericks offensive rating ranks a 27th, fourth highest at home, 4th lowest on the road. Take that for what it's worth. I think they've played 10 games at home this season, and then a few more games on the road, 10 games on the road, a few more games at home. But they have been, for some strange reason, maybe they're young guys, they thrive from the home crowd. I don't know. Maybe it's just noise, but they've been way, way better offensively at home. And the reason I point that out is just to say that this is a game where I expect to stay competitive. Believe it or not, Adam, the Mavericks are 2-point favorites at home over the Portland Trailblazers. This game has a 219 total. And yes, the Dallas Mavericks are favorites over the Portland Trailblazers, who not long ago, I swear Portland was like second in the West last week,
Yeah.
and now they're seventh. Everything's changing dramatically, and it's funny. I'll try not to get too off track here, but I was looking at this last night. 5 of the teams that made the playoffs in the West last year, if the season ended today, would be out of it.
Yeah, the Western Conference is just pretty fun to watch this year for the first time in a while, where everyone's really bunched up. Golden State and Houston not running away with it yet. It's actually pretty fun.
It's a complete logjam. I mean, the Jazz, the Rockets, the Spurs, the Pelicans, the Timberwolves are all on the outside looking in. The Timberwolves are making a push. The Blazers have lost 2 straight. The Grizzlies are in 6th. The Clippers and the Nuggets are tied for 1st. The Nuggets are on a 6-game win streak. You're right. It's been a whole lot of fun. The Lakers are in 5th. So, yeah, I mean, you've got the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, all teams that didn't make the playoffs last year competing. And I've got to tell you, again, not this is the last thing I'll say on this because I want to stay focused. The Clippers, there was an article about them where it's like the Clippers don't have any elite players, but they don't really have any bad players either. And it's fun to watch them because you want to talk about a full team effort every single night. That's exactly what you get from them. And I think they're actually a pretty good team. I don't think it's a smokescreen. I think they will make the playoffs, not first or second or third seed, but I think they definitely make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I think the Clippers are actually a good team. I think in today's NBA, they're not the kind of team that can win a championship.
Of course, exactly.
Right, but they're a good team.
Yeah, exactly. Probably eliminated first round, but still fun to watch. And a decent amount of fantasy value as well. I digress. What do you got with the Mavericks? Are we looking at a Luka Doncic here, who has been a very impressive player, and unfortunately on DraftKings again is only point guard eligible? Let me ask the chat here. Am I the only one that's bothered by the fact that they make him shooting guard, small forward, where he belongs for 2 games, and then they revert him right back to point guard the very next? Adam, it drives me nuts, dude. It makes no sense at all.
Especially when like 90% of the site is multi-position eligible, and then you have Luka Doncic that is locked in as a point guard.
And Dennis Smith Jr. as point guard only.
Right.
How is it that both of them are only point guard eligible, like you said, on a slate where everyone has multi-position eligibility, but 2 players on the same team that start and play 30-plus minutes a game are both only point guard? Explain that away to me.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating, especially for Doncic. Like for Dennis Smith, whatever. I wouldn't be rooting for Dennis Smith that much anyway. But
that's not my point. It's just how do you have 2 guys on the same team that both are in the starting lineup and play 30 minutes a game?
Yeah, I agree. I'm saying for Luka, it's really frustrating just because if they got it right, I would be able to play Luka so much more.
Right. You play him so much less with only restricted to only point guard.
Right.
It's blows my mind. But there he is, point guard only on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you don't have multi-position eligibility, but you've at least got it right. You've got him listed at shooting guard, and by got it right, I mean you don't have him at point guard. I don't care. You put him at center for all I care. It's better than point guard. But I think he's been questionable every game this season.
It seems that way.
It really does. He had been questionable and pretty much played every game, but he was held out of Sunday's game. So he has a good chance to return, according to Rick Carlisle. But if we've seen it in the past, good chance to return doesn't always mean they're going to play. So just give me a quick rundown of how you see things shaping up and what you got out of the rotation with Luka out on Sunday, because that could come into effect tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting Luka to play, but if he doesn't, there's a lot of moving pieces here because you also have Dennis Smith questionable, you have Barea questionable, and then less importantly, you have, I think, Maxi Kleber, Powell, and someone else, Mejri, all questionable. So lots of moving pieces for Dallas. But, if we assume that the guys that were in on Sunday are in and that Luka's out, then I think that, you see more minutes for JJ Barea. He actually played alongside Dennis Smith Jr., which is something that we haven't seen much this season when the Mavs are healthy. So it would make Smith and Barea both more appealing. But if we assume Luka's in, then I assume that Barea goes back to just, splitting 48 minutes essentially with Dennis Smith Jr.
All right. So if Luka's out, is there anyone that stands out to you as a spectacular play? Because I can tell you right now that JJ Barea played 27 minutes last game. You want to talk about somebody that just continues to get the job done year in and year out. Barea, what JJ Barea was undrafted. I'm pretty sure, right? I'm almost certain he was undrafted. Uh, maybe I'm wrong. I thought I could have sworn he was. Yeah, he was undrafted in 2006. Adam, he's been around since 2006, and every season you get JJ Barea giving you at least decent numbers every time he plays. And the funny thing is, the last 3 seasons have been his most productive seasons of his entire career, at least from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, he's just really productive, on a permanent basis. And he actually, when I ran my expected assist numbers, at the beginning of the season, and I did a regression on last year's numbers between, potential assists and where guys ended up with actual assist percentage. And there were like 3 monster outliers on the positive side. One was LeBron, one was James Harden, and the third was JJ Barea, just like being insanely efficient as far as converting on potential assists.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love the guy. Someone in chat said Doncic is playing. I don't see confirmation there, so I'm not going to confirm that.
I mean, he's probable.
Right. Yeah. I expect him to play, but I'm saying it's not confirmed yet. Now, we have a lot of questionable players for Dallas right now. God, that's a lot of questionable players. You see Doncic is probable. Do you have anything on everybody else?
I mean, I'm guessing that they play. Like JJ Barea is questionable because he cut his mouth. I think JJ Barea plays through that.
Dennis Smith. Oh, Dennis Smith has the mouth too.
Yeah. Dennis Smith lost a tooth.
Yeah. We've seen guys miss it because they were at the dentist. I'm not kidding. Wesley Matthews missed games because of oral surgery.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing. Like if I had to guess between Smith and Barea, I think Smith's probably the one that's actually questionable. Barea, I'd be pretty surprised if he misses. Smith, like obviously I have no idea what's going on to fix his mouth. But yeah, I mean, I'm assuming everyone's in for now.
Yeah. Another thing too is if you look at the big men, there's a lot of questionable guys there too. Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, Salah Mezri. Not to say that he's getting a ton of run each night at all, but that's like all of their bigs, Adam. I'm not even kidding because Dirk's out too. So
right.
It leaves you with DeAndre Jordan. If 2 of those guys are out, you're probably getting upwards of 38 minutes from Jordan. So I think even though those aren't big names, they are reserves that would take away from Jordan at times or just in the front court. So you could see his minutes climb pretty dramatically if some of those guys are out.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because, obviously it doesn't open the door for, other backups to become viable options. But with the rotation that we've seen Dallas run this season, it's basically everyone has a direct backup more or less. And so if you end up with multiples of those guys out, like if Maxey and Powell are both out, the biggest impact is probably just that you can lock DeAndre Jordan and Harrison Barnes in for more minutes.
Right. Exactly. I think that's exactly what we'd get. And obviously Dirk Nowitzki's still out. He's getting close, but he's not there yet. I think Dirk would probably hurt this team. He's right. Best European player ever, at least one of them. People would get mad if I don't say he's the best Euro player ever. I'm sure he is, whatever, but I don't think he's really helping teams at this rate. Anybody else for Dallas to interest you? This is another team that's tough for me to really, when everyone's healthy, Dallas isn't a team that I love. If we have some injuries here, I'd be far more inclined to look a little deeper into it.
Right, and that's where I am as well. I mean, I like Luka at 7K. I think on this slate, he grades out as a pretty decent play, even as a point guard on DraftKings. I think that Jordan is fine, but center, even on a 5-game slate here, is really deep. Obviously, we've already talked about Whiteside and Vooch and Carter, but we'll get to more guys, and Turner, but we'll get to more guys too that I really like. So tough to prioritize DeAndre. So I think that Luka is my favorite guy from this team.
Me too. although he's fucking point guard eligible. So ridiculous. Yusuf Nurkic, they finally, DraftKings gets something right. They finally price him above 7K on DraftKings. I mean, he was I think 7-1 last game, but prior to that, 67, 68, 7K, 66, 67, 68, 65. He got up to 74 at one point, but like it's insane to me. And he had lost minutes because of blowouts. And one game he had foul trouble, but Terry Stotts is giving him 30 plus minutes in competitive games. And people just hate playing this guy. For me, against Denver or against Orlando, where these games are going to be competitive or should be, I'll take my 6K 40 plus fantasy points and go about my business.
Yeah, I think that's easily been one of the most profitable spots consistently this season.
No doubt.
Like you're getting Yusuf Nurkic every slate at like 5% owned at $6,500. It's been really, really fun. So obviously the price coming up now makes it so it's tougher to get to him, but I still don't think he's overpriced. I mean, the guy averages 1.3 fantasy points per minute and plays around 32 minutes in competitive games, especially here against, DeAndre Jordan. I expect that we see plenty of Nurkic. So it's not the easiest matchup for him. And it's tough, if you look at DraftKings pricing, it'll be tough to prioritize him, over guys like Cauley Stein and DeAndre Ayton for $1,000 less for me. But, I still think that there's, plenty of upside here. He can pretty easily go for 40 plus.
He can. And, you're talking about a guy this year. Hold on. That per 36 is averaging 25 rebound chances per 36. That's a ton. 18 and a half per game, 25 per 36. And the reason I mentioned that is because we're seeing Nurkic get up to those minutes, or at least close to it in close spots. So I don't know. To me, there's no reason that you should see him being too expensive. And he had to say 24 rebound chances per 36 last year. He is a very good rebounder. He is a perfectly quality scorer on opportunities close to the basket. Hell, he'll even jack up a 3-pointer each day. He's 3 for 21. But the point. Oh, and another thing about Nurkic, I think sometimes people underestimate because of his size. His nickname is the Bosnian Bear. You ever seen his dad?
No, I haven't.
You don't know the story about Nurkic's dad?
I might. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think I've seen him.
He's a Bosnian police officer, and there's a story about him taking on like 8 quote unquote hooligans on his own with his bare fists. Yeah. Oh, dude, he comes to his games sometime. If you're in chat right now and you haven't seen it and you don't know the story, Google search Yusuf Nurkic dad and look at the images. He should show up. Yusuf Nurkic's dad is an absolute scary human being and someone that I have absolutely no interest in ever meeting. He's huge. There's a picture. If you just go Yusuf Nurkic's dad, it's him in a suit and tie. He looks like he is straight out of like a Russian gang, like out of the oh man, it is. Oh, you have just look this up. Just look this up real quick.
Yeah, I'm looking now. Yeah, he definitely looks like he's like straight out of a movie.
Yeah, he does. It's amazing.
That is a huge person.
He's huge, man. He's huge. So that's Yusuf Nurkic's dad. And Yusuf Nurkic is pretty big himself. But the point before I got sidetracked, he's actually not a bad passer when he's got the ball in his hands in the paint. Like he can find open guys.
Yeah, no, it's like Nikola Jokic light. I mean, they were on the same team. They came up together and they were actually pretty similar.
Yep. By the way, his dad is 400 pounds. He's 7 foot 400, 7 foot tall, 400 pounds. I mean, that's just absurd. All right. Do you have anything else from Portland?
Yeah, I mean, Dame Lillard's probably going to score the most points on the slate a high percentage of the time. Normally, I don't really want to pay 9,800 for Lillard because it's just difficult for him to succeed that often on a point per dollar basis. But as we talked about earlier, there is value on this slate that we'll get to that I think is good, and raw points on shorter slates kind of become more important. Like you can sacrifice more in terms of point per dollar to get the highest scorer or two into your lineups, and I think that makes Lillard, a pretty reasonable option, even though I think he's a little bit overpriced.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was somebody said 12 or 14 people that he beat up. 12 or 14 people that he beat up. He is just a hulking, terrifying individual. I'd love this. Imagine sitting next to him at a game, though.
Yeah, that's the picture I saw, like the first one that popped up. It's him in a suit, and he's sitting in the stands, surrounded by what is probably his family, but there's like 2 kids and then 2 like normal sized adults. Yeah. And it looks like he's taking off like 4 seats in between.
I know. Imagine being a fan of the other team and heckling Nurkic and having no idea that he is my son. Yeah, that'd not be good. I'll tell you what, though, we're through 3 games. We got 2 games to go. This is not exactly a slate that is all that enticing.
No, it's like we're back to 2015 basketball. Like all the games have like 208 totals.
It's crazy. And now we're talking. And we had a question about Evan Turner. I try and do right by our viewers. Any thoughts on Evan Turner here?
I hope to God I don't have to play him. I mean, he missed last game. I guess should be back today. But I mean, with the team getting cheap. What'd you say?
He's cheap. It's a 5-game slate.
Yeah, but what's he do? Like,
right. He doesn't do much at all. He's not. Okay, look, a good game from Turner, you're getting like 25 to 27 fantasy points. And honestly, at that rate, that's pretty much his ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, he was more appealing when a lot of the guys were injured and like Seth Curry was out. But now you have Curry getting those backup point guard minutes. The last game Turner played, he played 27 minutes, which is fine, but some of those minutes are alongside Lillard, which means he's not handling the ball. I mean, if you want like 24 fantasy points, then fine. But I think that there are just better plays in that price range once we get to that Kings game.
Yeah, there are. If you guys were, or if you're throwing in like 150 lineups and Evan Turner pops up in like 5% of them on this 5-game slate, I don't hate it. Benjamin Sisko says Turner's gotten over 30 fantasy points a couple times this season. Now I know I'm not looking back at all. I'm saying, I guess I'll say ceiling is not the right word.
I mean, Mo Harkless played 34 minutes last game, so that's an issue for Evan Turner.
Right. I mean, but we've also seen like, what was it? Mo Williams dropped 50 points in a game. And I still don't think that that's his ceiling. That's like a complete anomaly. So, yeah, Turner could give you 30. But as you pointed out, them getting healthy has a lot to do with now not only minutes, but ball handling responsibilities. Evan Turner is going to turn into a guy that kind of just sits around. Maybe he'll play some backup ball handling minutes, but not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Harkless being off a minutes restriction is just a pretty big deal because with Turner, who's not productive on a per minute basis, even if he goes from 27 or 28 minutes down to like 22 to 24, he essentially loses any value he had. Right.
Exactly. Yes. Jason Stiegelman, if he punched you in your throat, you would be dead. You'd be 100% dead in one, like you would not get back up. You would not wake up. You'd be sleeping for eternity if Yusuf Nurkic's dad punched you in the face. By the way, his dad's name is Harris, Harris Nurkic. Oh
that seems like it fits.
Right. You get like a bag thrown over your head and thrown in the back of a black Suburban. And where are you taking me? You're going to see Harry's Nurkic. No, please, not Harry's Nurkic. No. Oh my God. Could you imagine you get taught like it from a movie? They toss you. It's like an abandoned warehouse. You get thrown on the ground. They pull it off and he's just sitting there smoking a cigar. Oh my God. I would legitimately piss my pants. All right. I'm not going to be able to get off of this one. Utah and San Antonio. and this isn't going to help. Believe it or not, though, this has the second highest or third highest total on the slate. It's 214.5. Utah 7-point favorites here. It's kind of crazy to see the Jazz and the Spurs in as dire straits as they are this season, right? The Spurs are 11-12. The Jazz are 11-13. They're both far on the outside looking in. And by far on the outside, I mean like literally one game out. But they've just really it's been a struggle for them, no question. They're not the same teams, and we're going to continue to see. You're just going to continue to see them struggle. By the way, before we get into this, excuse me, I wanted to point out that we talked about it yesterday on the deeper dive. As a gift to everyone that supports awesemo.com and all of our content, because we love you guys. You guys are the best supporters, best people in the industry when it comes to DFS. We're giving something away every day of December through Christmas Eve. So for the first week, we're still in the first week. One lucky person gets a free NFL membership for the rest of the season that includes all of Awesemo's rankings for every slate, including the showdowns, ownership projections, and all of our premium content. All you got to do is click the like button down below. You got to click the like button. And so, Adam, we got to think of something that they can comment on. I was trying to think of something for Yusuf Nurkic's dad. That's the common theme today.
Yeah, nicknames for Nurkic's dad.
Yes. Okay. Nicknames for Nurkic's dad. The best nickname for Nurkic's dad. It'll be randomly selected, but I just enjoy seeing this anyway. So click the like button. Give us the best nickname for Nurkic's dad, and you'll get an entry also for every show. So if you come into every show, you hit like, you comment, you'll be entered in each and every one of them. So the more you watch, the more you do, the more you'll be entered into, and winners will be randomly chosen. And on Christmas Eve, we're going to give away a free all-access annual membership. All access, everything for a full year to one of the entries throughout the month. So you start now. You do what you got to do for your chance to win in these 24 days of giveaways. Our present from us at Awesemo to you this wonderful holiday season. All right. Actually, make it. Where would you? I'm trying to think of something good. A nickname might be too easy for Nurkic's dad, but saying like the last spot you'd want to run into Nurkic's dad or something like that. Anyway, let's keep going here. It's been a good show so far, despite the bad slate. What are we doing with Utah? What are we doing with this Jazz team?
Not playing them. There's nothing that really. There's just nothing here that is really that appealing to me. Like Rudy Gobert, I like as a DFS player. I don't like him quite as much when he's $8,600. I just don't see how I'm getting there. Maybe he goes for 50 plus, but I won't have him. It's just like they're healthy now. Donovan Mitchell's correctly priced. They're all correctly priced to me. There's not a lot from this game that I like, but what I do like is not from the Utah side.
Yeah. Generally speaking, Utah versus San Antonio is a game that we don't even talk about. I'm not even kidding. Like it's one that last year we would kind of ignore, but you can't do it as much because you got 5 games on this slate. Donnie Mitchell isn't exactly popping off the board as a phenomenal play now that his price. I really think Donovan Mitchell is like a low 7K player on DraftKings. That's where I feel comfortable playing him.
Yeah, he was quote unquote underpriced for a lot of this season, and I still wasn't getting him. He just hasn't really shown up.
You know why? Because Zach LaVine and Devin Booker were also like 75 and 7,600 all season.
Yeah, exactly.
Why play Mitchell over those guys when they can actually do other stuff than score? Dave on Slack said Ricky Rubio is his favorite play from this game. I don't hate the idea of Rubio. I don't like the idea of Rubio either as much, though, when he's with Donovan Mitchell. Now, bringing Kyle Korver in doesn't do that much because he's not a ball handler. And I actually thought this was a strange acquisition anyway, because they needed another guy that could actually facilitate. that could take some ball handling responsibilities away from Mitchell and Robinson. Kyle Korver is just going to spot up. Like, honestly, Adam, how much different is Korver from Alec Burks anyway?
He's obviously much, much better shooter.
Yeah, but that's not moving the needle. That's what I'm saying. I don't think so whatsoever. I don't think Kyle Korver over Alec Burks is moving the needle for a team that needs to win games in the West.
I think he's a better fit just because now they have Neto back, they have Exum, like they have ball handlers with that second unit. So I think Korver ends up being a better fit than Burks, but I agree that it doesn't substantially change anything.
That's a fair enough take. Yeah, I just think with Exum and Neto, could you argue that they're okay playmakers? I guess, but man, they have not exactly shown up. This whole team this year has been underwhelming, and I don't think it's a surprise to anyone either that when you look at Utah, you look at the offensive rating on this team, and they're down at the bottom of the league with the Cavs and with the Bulls and the Hawks. I mean, they're actually significantly better than the Hawks, but they have the same offensive rating as the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they've struggled. I don't know. I don't really know how you can, I guess because it's 5 games, we could make arguments for some players, but it's tough to have any conviction in doing so.
Right. I mean, Joe Ingles, I think he hasn't been playing well lately, but he lost a bunch of minutes last game to foul trouble. He's 5,100 on DraftKings. He has a path to have a good game.
Right.
I'm not
super Crowder's minutes are up too.
Right. And I agree on the Rubio take. I mean, if I had to pick a favorite player from the Jazz, I wouldn't have, it would be like a toss up between Rubio, Ingles, or like punting for 25 minutes of Derek Favors. So I don't think it's a crazy take. It's just that I think 6,200 most of the time, Rubio just gives you a score that, you can take it or leave it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. And Rudy Gobert, look, he's been offensively, fantasy wise, he's been solid, but and he's coming off his best rebounding game of the year. But you're not getting even a small discount on Gobert. He's 95 on DraftKings and 86 on FanDuel.
Right. I think that as much as I like Gobert as a fantasy player, if you play the slate 100 times and you're rostering Gobert at 8,600 instead of Vooch at 9K, you're probably not coming out ahead. But more so than that, if you're rostering Gobert at 8,600 compared to guys like Carter at 4,800 or Cauley Stein or Ayton in the mid 6K range, it's just making it really, really difficult. You need a lot to go right for it to work out for you.
All right. Let's talk about San Antonio. Begrudgingly. We saw, Derek White, his minutes have been all over the place, right? Like he gets healthy, he starts playing, we see him up above 30, then that happens like twice, and then his minutes come down. And then Popovich grew tired of him. And then Popovich was like, all right, wait, I don't really have any other quality options here. So maybe I have to play more Derek White. And we're probably not going anywhere this season. So maybe it's not the worst idea. Derek White still coming off the bench, but he played 33 minutes last game, 33 minutes the game before that. Now, I don't know how much of that was the result of a blowout. He did play the final 18 and a half minutes, Adam, to close out the last game they played, in which they won by, I think it was 13 points over Portland. I want to see. Actually, no, this game was competitive all the way up until they went on a big run with about 4 minutes left in the game. So that game was pretty competitive throughout. They actually closed out with Patty Mills, Derek White, Rudy Gay, Aldridge, and DeRozan. So that tells you right there that Derek White was in the closing plans for that game, or at least he made his way into it throughout the game. And then against Houston, they lost by 31. And then he basically emptied the bench in this one. But Derek White still played, 12 minutes. He played the entire second quarter in that game, the entire second quarter. Dante Cunningham never came back after the first quarter. And Bryn Forbes, Bryn Forbes came out, halfway through the second quarter. I'm trying to see if there's any foul trouble. No real foul trouble for Forbes.
I think he just played bad.
I think, well, it's Bryn Forbes, right? But uh, Derek White has been looking better lately. And one thing I always try and pay attention to is somebody like him on a team like this where DeRozan does so much of the heavy lifting. I try and see like what are the potential assists look like here? Is he getting opportunity to touch the ball? Because sure, you have touches, but then potential assists. Because touches are one thing, doesn't matter. You could play on a team with a lot of ball movement like the Spurs, even though they play slow, and touches don't really mean dick. It's potential assists that matter to me. Derek White over the last 2 games leads the team with 9 potential assists per game. That's encouraging to me. Unfortunately, it is due for some regression. I don't think 15 assists on total 18 potential assists is something we should continue to see, but he is still pretty cheap, and Utah's defense has struggled. What do you think of Derek White if he continues to play 30 plus minutes?
He's fine if you're playing a bunch of tournament lineups. He should be low owned, I would expect. He works as a pretty direct pivot away from Okobo, who we'll talk about in that last game, and who,
right.
I think
will be pure chalk.
Right, exactly. So he works in that aspect, but you basically just have to keep in mind that with all of these secondary guys on the Spurs, it's not really easy or possible, I don't think, to predict exactly how the rotation goes any particular game. Dante Cunningham played 11 minutes against Portland. He could play 24 here. Bertans played 26. Right. He could play 12. White, Mills, Forbes. We've seen Forbes play, close to 30 minutes in other games. So it's just very, very volatile. But we at least know that there's a potential for White to play a bunch of minutes and at low ownership. And like you said, actually playing a productive role when he's on the floor. I think that there's, at least some tournament merit, not as a core play, but as, a pivot that you can rotate in.
Right. I guess I like him a little more than you do, only because I see Okobo being so ridiculously popular. And I don't mind Eli Okobo's game. I think he's decent, but I also still think that given the over under here, given the pace differential, Okobo is the better play. I'm not saying he isn't. However, it's also not to say, Adam, that he's not capable of just having a bad game. Like, it's still very, very possible that he just doesn't have a great game. So
you mean like when he scored 9 fantasy points in 30 minutes against the Lakers 2 days ago?
That's exactly what I mean. Exactly. But I still expect him to see quite a bit of ownership because it's a 5-game slate and a popular one. Maybe I'll be wrong. Right now, our ownership projections do not have him that high. Like, he's way lower than I expected. Way lower than I expected. So maybe I'm just off on this one, but for some reason I feel like throughout the day his ownership will go up. And if you want to see the ownership projections for free, if you want to see all of our content behind the paywall, if you look at the bottom of the screen, NBA strategy, all one word, NBA strategy, you use that as your promo code. You get a free week behind paywall, all premium content for free. So you can test the waters, see if you like it, see if you want to stick around. I think you will. You just go to the join now, click join now on the homepage, pick out your plan. And at the end, before you check out, it'll prompt you, enter NBA strategy, one word, and you will be charged absolutely nothing for a week. And you can check out awesemo.com. It's AWESEMO.com. Well, we hope to see you around. All right. So, yeah, I think Derek White, just because I don't expect many to be on him, is interesting. And I don't think really Eli Okobo is a much better player than him. Actually, Derek White is a better player. It's just how much involvement will he have. Aside from that, though, we've got DeMar DeRozan. We've got LaMarcus Aldridge going up, playing a lot of center minutes recently. What do you make of the rest of the Spurs team, if anything?
I like Aldridge. I think the price tag's really fair, 7,600 on DraftKings. But, we had talked a little bit earlier about Rudy Gobert defensively, and where one spot we've really seen Gobert struggle is closing out on guys. Saw him just get absolutely torched in the pick and roll by Miles Turner about a week ago now. But Aldridge is just a guy, he's one of the leaders in the league in post-up attempts, but he also is a guy that can stretch the floor and pull Gobert out of the paint. And I just think it's a spot where Aldridge is likely to get a bunch of open looks. And I think it's just a more appealing matchup than most people will give it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't shoot 3-pointers, but he's still one of the best mid-range jump shooters in the league in terms of his size. Like, not many, maybe Marcus Gasol, but like not many guys have that better elbow jumper than LaMarcus Aldridge. Right. His elbow jumper is just filthy, man, and he can knock it down all the time. I don't really think I don't think he's going to stretch as much as you think, but I still think he's a good enough player to. He's a savvy enough guy that he can have a good game here. And you know what the biggest thing for me is with Aldridge, though? He's 7,600 on DraftKings. I get that he's had some down games, but Aldridge at that price point is still on a 5-game slate very appealing to me.
Yeah, exactly. The rebounding numbers for him this year have been really nice. Playing 100% of his minutes at the 5 obviously helps that. So it's the only like negative that I'd have to say about Aldridge is that since Popovich came out and said that he was looking to scale back the minutes for guys like DeRozan and Aldridge, you really haven't seen those 38 to 40 minute games anymore for Aldridge, coming in around like 34 in competitive games, which sucks. But, I just still think the price tag's cheap enough where, especially on a 5-game slate, there's only so many players who can go for 50 plus fantasy points. I certainly think that Aldridge is one of them.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Last one, and then we'll get to our final game here and close it out. What do you make of Rudy Gay?
It was good to see him get back and play like 34 minutes last game. We had seen he had actually taken kind of a negative, or Derek White's return had a negative impact on Gay, where we had seen his minutes really drop. Obviously they play different positions, but in an age of positionless basketball, someone like White getting more minutes just changes the entire rotation. And we saw Gay lose some minutes. So it was really nice to see him get back to 34 or 35 minutes against Portland. It's tough to completely trust that, but I still think that, projecting him for 30 to 32 minutes and just, keeping in mind when you set your exposures that there's volatility there is probably the best way to go. His usage has been really low for a while now. Earlier in the season, we saw him pretty often up around 24, 25%. He hasn't gone over 20% since November 19th, which is a stretch of about 7 or 8 games. So it's not a super appealing spot, but it is a 5-game slate. He is reasonably priced. So I feel similarly to him as I do Evan Fournier.
So something I want to point out, and I'm looking at this now. Whenever we talk Spurs, I try to pull their schedule up. This is the first end of a back-to-back. Keep an eye out. You may see some rest. You may see some moves here. You may see Rudy Gay sit out this game, Adam. It's very possible. They play tomorrow.
Yeah, and so and also even if guys don't sit, just keep that in mind that it's one more reason for Popovich to do weird stuff with his rotation.
Yep, because they got the Jazz today and the Spurs or the Lakers tomorrow, in LA at the Staples Center. That concerns me a little bit. Actually makes me like someone like Derek White a little bit more. He's young. There's no reason you really have to worry about his minutes. But with Aldridge, that's a bit of a concern. With DeRozan, that doesn't bother me whatsoever. But DeRozan's definitely come back down to earth. I know he's coming off a big game against Portland, but he's starting to see that volatility that we kind of expected to see to start the year, but wasn't there. Now we're seeing it a little bit more for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a lot that when he started the season out, like he was going to have more of a role as a playmaker here, but he was still just kind of unsustainably high on how many assists were being converted in the baskets or potential assists were being converted in the baskets. So I think we've seen that kind of come back to earth a little bit. And then also, not playing huge minutes as consistently, still got 38 last game. It'll still happen sometimes, but, just not playing 40 to 42 minutes most nights.
Exactly. All right, let's keep it moving. Final game, Phoenix, Sacramento. And remember, stick around throughout the day. We got plenty of content coming up. The deeper dive at 5 p.m. live before lock with, I believe, Eddie and Chris at 6 o'clock. We got 7 p.m. Eastern time lock today on a Tuesday. So plenty of content. And we're just getting you started now, though. Phoenix and Sacramento. All right, Adam, this is the one game with a 220 plus total. It's funny. Since we've been doing this show, it went from 225.5 down to 223.5. Seems to be the trend of the day. The Kings are 6.5 point favorites. I don't want to say the upstart Kings, but they actually do look, at least, look, they've come back down to earth as well, but they do at least look competitive in a lot of games, right? They're 11-11. They're a 500 team. Hell, they got a better record than the Jazz, Rockets, Spurs, Pelicans, and Timberwolves. They're playing decent enough basketball to where even against better teams, you don't mind playing some of these guys. Well, they're not playing a better team today. Now Devin Booker's without a timetable for return. That's not good. And I mean, that's huge. It's absolutely huge. And so I want to start with the Kings first, and then we'll close it out with Phoenix because we have a lot to talk about on the Phoenix side of the ball. Let's start with the Kings and De'Aaron Fox, who is having a really solid. I'm loving what I'm seeing from De'Aaron Fox, man. I'm really loving this kid in the pick and roll and his ability to salvage bad shooting games with really high assist totals and steals. I'm loving what I'm seeing from De'Aaron Fox in his second year with the Kings.
Yeah, so am I, and still playing big minutes even with Bogdanović back, which I think we expected, but it's good to, see it actually happening. You can project him for 34 to 36 minutes here against a Phoenix team that is not very good defensively. So the price tag has finally come up on Fox. We had seen him, be really, really underpriced for a while, but I still think that there's excess value there. He's like you said, he's picking up assists, which elevates his floor and his ceiling, but he still gets plenty of usage as well, up around 24.5%. So there's obvious upside, double upside here for De'Aaron Fox. And I think he's still a really good play.
So do I. What about the other side or the rest of this front court with, with guys like Buddy Hield or backcourt, I'm sorry, and wing players too. I'll throw in Bogdan Bogdanović. Very impressive lately, man. Here's another guy that you're getting great production out of. He's playing 31, 35, 34 minutes over his last 3 games. The minutes are up there. They seem to be here to stay. He's racking up some assists. He's actually involved as a facilitator. He's got 20-plus points and 6 assists in 2 straight games. His usage is continuously rising, even though his minutes are climbing as well. And Buddy Hield is still playing 30-plus minutes. So it's looking more and more like Jaeger is beginning to, Iman Shumpert's still getting run. But De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Bogdanović, these guys are beginning to see a lot more minutes, while guys like Bjelica's minutes are coming down. We're starting to get a firm idea of how the rotation's working and which guys he wants to play each night.
Right, and we're seeing Bogdan Bogdanović actually play point guard as well. Frank Mason did not play a single minute in their last game against Indiana. Bogdanović played every minute that De'Aaron Fox was not on the floor. So that actually has a couple of implications. One being that, you mentioned the playmaking numbers for Bogdanović. Any minute that he's on the floor and he's the guy with the ball in his hands, it's just more valuable. But also it's good for Buddy Hield because if we know Bogdanović is going to get, let's say 32 minutes a game, if he's not getting 12 to 14 of them as the point guard, that's more likely he's taking minutes from Buddy Hield. But if he's getting 12 to 14 minutes there, it makes it easier to just take the rest of the minutes from guys like Justin Jackson, Troy Williams, Shumpert, the wings, and leave Buddy Hield alone in, like a 32 to 34 minute role. So the fact that Mason is not apparently in the rotation anymore, and we've seen that for a couple of games now, makes me like Hield more as well. I think Bogdanović and Hield are both, perfectly fine options.
So do I. I think Bogdanović, Hield, and Fox are, and it comes back to the same problem that we've had is, you're still getting all of these guys at very reasonable price point. Even Fox at 7,500 on a 5-game slate is reasonable. Buddy Hield at $6K, Bogdanović at 5.8 on DraftKings. All very reasonable salaries. Fox is 79 on FanDuel. Again, very reasonable. Bogdanović, 66. I have no issue with that on this slate. Buddy Hield is 6K flat on FanDuel. That's a discount. So all of them are in solid spots. I guess the question is, how many of them do you want to play? And what is the news going to be with Marvin Bagley? Because he is questionable. We know that Dave Joerger and his assistant coach, I forget who was it, they actually got in the fight and with the front office over the idea that he didn't want to play him. This is the rumor, of course. This is what we've heard. I don't know why you wouldn't want to play Marvin Bagley. To me, that doesn't make much sense. But that became a big thing that was causing dissension in Sacramento. Surprise, surprise. Again, you've got Marvin Bagley, You've got Willie Cauley-Stein, who is also very affordable. Every single night, this Sacramento team is all priced affordably, all offer quality floors and upside, and now you've got them against Phoenix.
Right. I'll say we all that talk about the Kings, and Cauley-Stein's actually my favorite play here.
Right, exactly.
Right. There's just so many different ways to go, but you have Cauley-Stein, who in games where he's not in competitive games where he's not in foul trouble, he's very consistently playing 32 to 34 minutes. Bagley shouldn't have an impact on that because we had seen Bagley taking minutes essentially from Bjelica and Harry Giles. It wasn't that he was taking minutes from Cauley-Stein. So I think it's a nice spot for Cauley-Stein. You have Phoenix allowing the 10th or 11th most offensive rebounds per game in the NBA this season. Not a good rebound, not a particularly good rebounding team overall. So should be productive minutes for Cauley-Stein as long as he doesn't get in foul trouble. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it's just the entire team's underpriced. Fortunately, though, on this slate, there's not a lot of appealing games. So the opportunity cost to having, even like 3 Kings in your lineup is lower than it is on most slates. On bigger slates or on slates where there were other games that were really appealing, I would probably want to just like mix and match 2 Kings per lineup. But here, I think you can probably go to 3. You just want to make sure that you're not playing guys that, overlap each other. Like, I don't want a ton of Bogdanovich with Buddy Hield just because there is potential for them to take minutes away from each other. Obviously, wouldn't want like Cauley-Stein with a center, but or Bjelica with Bagley if Bagley's in. But the point being that I think the Kings, there's a good chance that multiple players on the Kings are some of the top values on the slate.
No doubt about it. And you can't tell me it's not funny that early in the season, Bjelica was one of the best values, along with Hield, along with Fox, along with Cauley-Stein. Now Bjelica fades into the background, and Marvin Bagley takes his spot. Like it doesn't matter. They've got a lot of young players that are good players. I'll tell you what, if you had a good, I won't say elite, but if you had put an all-star player on this Kings team right now, right? Let's say I'll even say a Paul George or I don't know. You see where I'm going. Not a Joel Embiid or a Giannis, but an all-star player. They might be a really decent team come next year when all of these guys are a year older and more mature.
They'd be so much better than the Lakers if they had LeBron. Like, I mean, obviously, if the Lakers didn't have LeBron, the Kings would be better. But I'm saying, like, if LeBron on the Kings would be such a good fit.
No question. No question about it. They're a fun team. I actually am enjoying the Kings for the first time in more than I did with, and DeMarcus Cousins is my favorite player in the basketball in the NBA, but even more than with Cousins because they actually have something around him. Yeah. It's unfortunate that they've built all of this now and don't have Cousins because with Cousins, this team would be like a formidable opponent for sure. Yeah.
And also pretty crazy how quickly they've gone from like, I hate every DFS slate the Kings are on because I have no idea who the hell is going to play to like one of the most consistent rotations that we have.
No question. It's really quite incredible. Now the Suns, on the other hand, they've got some young talent, but Booker's out. DeAndre Ayton, look, I'll tell you what, he has not been great lately. Played 25 minutes in that last game, total blowout. Didn't get the fourth quarter run, which would have been nice. I don't know if he was in foul trouble there. I would look back to see if he was because he
picked up his 3rd foul with 2.5 minutes to go in the second quarter.
Okay,
so lost a couple minutes.
Okay, and then he didn't pick his 4th up until the 4th quarter. He did get 4th quarter minutes. Kokoskov has actually been giving him 4th quarter run all season long, but I thought you meant. No, you said he picked up his 3rd when?
2.5 minutes to go in the second.
Okay, but he also picked up 2 in the first quarter.
Right.
So he picked up 2 after 7.5 minutes in the first quarter. And then so he sat out for 8 straight minutes and then played 5.5 minutes and then never played again. And then he was pulled 5 minutes into the 4th quarter because the game, they were down by 33 points. So that's a blip on the radar. Not something I'm considering whatsoever. Lock him back in for another 30 minutes or more, probably even if it blows out, honestly, because he would have got an extra 5 minutes probably in the first half. Ayton at $6,500 on DraftKings against the Kings. And what is he at? He's 68 on FanDuel. I get he hasn't been great lately, but I still have quite a bit of interest in DeAndre Ayton at this price point.
Yeah, so do I. I love the spot for him. I love that the price tag's down. And he's just another guy that he does a lot. We talked about Wendell Carter not being scoring dependent. It's the same thing for Ayton. He rebounds, he can pick up assists, he can do everything when he's on the floor. It is a pace up game for Phoenix as well. I think the price tag is just really appealing here. And then you do get a little bit of a bump in terms of usage as well without Booker or TJ Warren.
Yeah. It's just too cheap, man. Ayton's been up and down. He's a rookie. One thing I love about him, though, Ayton does not get into a lot of foul trouble for a rookie at all.
You need to play defense to get in foul trouble.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think he's got all of the physical assets and gifts to be a really good defender. But he's a rookie. Dude, rookie big men defensively generally always struggle. I'm sure we could find some exceptions, but we'll see. Anyway, we'll work from the front court down, and then we'll finish the show out. TJ Warren is not expected to play, so we know that Booker's out. We're assuming that Warren, who is doubtful, is also out. Josh Jackson finally didn't suck over his last game, and the game before that he played 38 minutes and didn't suck. He's 5,300. I think he's probably going to be the most popular play on the slate, or one of them. What are you doing with Jackson and the front court or the wings here? So front court and wings not named DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jackson a lot. It's just such an appealing spot against Sacramento. The minutes should be there. Like without Warren or Booker, it's just really difficult to find a way that they're not there. He's played 173 minutes without either of them on the floor this season. 30% usage, 19% assist percentage. He's only averaged, 0.8 fantasy points per minute, but he also has a 39.7% true shooting percentage. So you'd expect that to go up over a larger sample. But even if he plays 36 minutes at, 0.8 points per minute, he comes in as a fine play at 5,300. So I just think there's a lot more reward than risk. The only argument against him would be, ownership, obviously. But I think that there's, enough ways to be different here. And then, Trevor Ariza, not a super appealing play on a per minute basis, but should just play monster minutes here, assuming Warren's actually out. You should probably get him pushing 38 to 40 minutes, which just means that he's a perfectly fine play.
Yeah. And dude, Mikal Bridges has been awful.
Yeah.
Like just awful. Outside of last game where he shot 4 for 8, he had made exactly one shot in 5 straight games. Like,
yeah, that is really bad.
His 3-point shooting has been just atrocious. He played 31 minutes last game, but 12 of them came in the final quarter when they were literally down by 28 to 33 points the entire quarter. I don't know. Even with Warren out, with Booker out, I don't know if you can really project him for that much run. If you wanted to sprinkle him in a little bit, hoping that he gets like 28 minutes, that's fine. But it's not unrealistic to think that Bridges is only going to play 24, 25 minutes here. And just given his production, I don't even know if it's worth it at this price point.
I mean, I think he plays a lot of minutes. I'm not concerned about his minutes. I just am concerned about the production. I mean, even he's played 135 minutes without Booker or Warren on the floor this year and still has managed to have a 15.5% usage rate. No matter who he's out there with, they're taking shots over him. You take Booker and Warren off, you have Josh Jackson chucking up shots. You have Eli Okobo, who's going to take, most likely more shots than him. So it's just normally empty minutes, and you have to, get either a hot shooting game or a game where he runs into some defensive stats.
I'm not giving him 30 minutes here, though. But how? Warren? Well, yeah, I guess. Well, I'm trying to see. Okay, so Warren didn't play last game. Booker played most of the first half. Yeah, I still would not be surprised. Like he
played 18 minutes in the second half once Booker was hurt last game. He got to 30 total.
Right. He played 18 minutes, but Ariza didn't play a single second in the fourth quarter. Josh Jackson played 3 minutes. The game was a total wash. Jamal Crawford didn't play a single second in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but guys like Troy Daniels played the entire fourth. Those are minutes that are gonna disappear. Bender played 5 minutes. Melton played a few minutes. Like there were scrubs that picked up minutes.
Yeah. All right, we'll see. I'm giving him around 26, 27. What are you giving him?
Haven't completely done it yet, but I'll probably have him in at like 33 or 34.
33. Well, if that's the case, then he's worth taking a look at. But I don't know if I'm confident putting him there. We'll see. We'll see. Josh Jackson obviously is one of the guys that everybody's targeting today, for good reason. I got obviously no concerns here. He has been good in the past with opportunity, and it's important too that with TJ Warren out and Booker in, you're not going to get great numbers from Jackson. But now that you have both of them out, it's definitely going to make a considerable difference. You know, even though Jackson had a big first quarter with Booker in the game the other day, it still helps him quite a bit with the ball out of Booker's hands. All right, let's close it out here with the backcourt.
Hang on. I got one more front court guy.
Please.
So it's purely as like a tournament play. Like I'm not super confident that this happens, but we haven't seen it happen yet. But if there were a time, if there were a time that Ayton and Richaun Holmes were going to play next to each other, it would be when the alternative is Ryan Anderson or Dragon Bender. And if Bagley's in, with Costa Koufos back, if you get Bagley in, you're getting big lineups from the Kings where they either have Cauley Stein and Bagley out there together, or they have Koufos and Bagley together. If there were ever a time to play Richaun Holmes alongside DeAndre Ayton, it's in this matchup, especially if Bagley's in. He's only 3,800. He's over a point per minute guy. Even if he only does get his backup center minutes, he can bail you out potentially and pay off his price tag. But I just think that there's probably a higher chance that he actually gets some run alongside Ayton and gets up to 22 to 24 minutes than will be accounted for in his ownership percentage.
And he's also been one of the more productive Suns players lately too. That might factor into some more minutes. I'd take 22, 24 minutes of Richaun Holmes over 32 minutes of Mikal Bridges.
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, the risk is just that they've literally played 1 minute alongside each other all season long.
Right.
But it's just that this is like the exact spot that you would do it if you're ever going to do it.
Right. All right. What do you have on Elie Okobo? And then we'll close this out.
I just don't know how not to like him. I mean, he was playing 30 minutes even with Booker, and now you don't have Booker. So it's pretty difficult to not project him, over 30 minutes here. The price tags come up a little bit, but in 127 minutes without Booker on the floor, you still have a 23% usage rate. You have a 26% assist percentage. He's averaged about 3/4 of a point per minute, which obviously is not great, but it's still fine for that price tag if he's going to play around 34 minutes or so in this game. It's just really tough not to like him. The only way around him is just, I agree with you that we're going to see that ownership projection climb during the day. So that would be like the only argument against him. But in terms of point per dollar, in terms of cash plays, I don't really know how to get away from Elie Okobo here. Yeah,
neither do I. The truth is this game's just going to be so chalky. And look, for good reason. Sometimes it makes, sometimes there's bad chalk. Other times it makes sense. And it's not even just the pace of this game, Adam, but it's also the idea that there are guys that are very reasonably priced, two defenses that aren't exactly imposing. It's overall a good spot for both of them. And that's what it comes down to.
Right. And you have two teams where almost everyone's underpriced. They also happen to be in the two most appealing matchups on the entire slate. And every other game on this slate is kind of just like a dog shit game. So it's not even like there's a lot of opportunity cost to going here. So, it'll be chalky, but I think that there are ways you can go. Like, not every player in this game is going to be chalky. You'll just have a lot of ownership on some guys.
And the team that plays at a slower pace and might not have as many guys that you like, talking about Phoenix, is also down their two top scorers.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it just makes it so, the Kings, they're basically healthy, but their entire team's too cheap. The Suns are too cheap because of circumstance. So it's just a really, really appealing spot.
All right. Looks like that'll do it. You got anything else to add here? We've gone about an hour and 45 minutes. Pretty long show, but I think we got it all in.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I'll have the deep dive article out around 3, and then you and I will be back to do it again.
All right. That's right. Much
Oh,
love.
Thrive. We should do some Thrive picks.
Oh, that's right. You do this on the NBA strategy show. All right, let's do it. I can't play. I went to play. My area is restricted on Thrive Fantasy, which is really unfortunate because I started picking them and I'm like, you know what? It's actually very I kind of like this prop betting type thing.
Yeah, I think it's really fun.
It's really cool. Okay, so pull it up. If you guys want to follow us along before we head out, thrivefantasy.com. I'll go to the 1K contest here. Let's how about
Are
this?
you able to get on the site?
Yeah, I can get on the site. I can't enter.
Okay, cool. Because it's taking it. My computer's taking its sweet time to pull it up. So
that's not weird. Okay. Laurie Markkanen prop 13.5 total points. Oh, give me that over all day on this, dude. All day.
What's the scoring there?
Over 90, under 110, but still I can't go under on that.
Yeah, you said 13.5 real points?
Yeah.
Let me see what do I have him at.
And I got him playing I think he can play upwards of 32, 33 minutes tonight.
Yeah. And if I project him for 30 minutes, I have him at 15 real points. So
and he shot 14 times in 26 minutes last game. He only hit 4 of them. But you don't need much to get 14 points from Mark. I'm going over for the 90 points. What do you have?
Over? Yeah, over as well.
All right. Zach LaVine, total rebounds, 4.5, over 105, under 95.
I got the over.
Yeah, so do I. Tariq Evans. And this, by the way, this helps for DraftKings or FanDuel as well. You know, getting an idea of what we're projecting in terms of some of these peripherals. 3.5 total assists. I have him at 0.7 assists.
Do you?
No, of course.
I'll say I have him at 3.1.
Of course not, but he probably will.
Right.
He'll find a way to have 0.7 assists.
So I have him at 3.1. The under is shaded 120, so I got to take the under here.
Tariq Evans, by the way, potential assists since starting. What do you think his potential assists are per game since starting?
I think it's 6 per 36 minutes and a little bit less per game because I already talked about it.
All right. 4.1 per 25 minutes that he's playing.
Yeah, it was like 6 per 36, I think.
That sounds about right. Miles Turner, 2.5 total blocks, over or under. Over's 125, under 75.
By the way, I just adjusted Evans' assist percentage, and I now have him projected for 2.5 assists.
There you go.
Turner over under 2.5 blocks.
Yeah. Over is worth 125, under 75. I'll take the over.
I have him projected for exactly 2.5 blocks, so I'll take the over.
There you go. Evan Fournier, half his total steal.
The under is 130.
Yeah.
I'll take the under.
All right. Yeah, why not? Aaron Gordon, 21.5 points plus rebounds. I'm taking the under here.
Man, the line's really good. Like I have him at 22.
Real sharp.
Yeah, I have him at like 22. So I guess I'll take the over.
Hassan Whiteside, 14.5 rebounds plus assists. So basically 14.5 rebounds.
Right. I have him at only 12.7 total, so I'll take the under.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, this is tough based on I'm taking the over here because I think we get big Hassan Whiteside minutes. If Hassan Whiteside plays 30 minutes, I'll go way over on this, no problem. But again, it's a pretty sharp line. All right, we'll do 2 more. Let's go. Oh, here we go. Yusuf Nurkic, blocks plus steals, 1.5. Give me the over all day on that. I don't even care if it's worth so much less points. I'm going over on that. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 2.5, but yeah, over.
And he's at 1.5. I know the point system definitely makes it more difficult, but it's so hard for me to go against. I guess with blocks and steals going under here makes sense because they are kind of hard to predict.
Right.
Unless you're JaVale McGee.
Right.
Luka Doncic, 15.5 points.
That's probably really close. I have him at, where'd he go? I'm at 20.2, so I'll take the over.
All right, I just want to do these two more because these are really good. DeAndre Ayton, 11.5 total rebounds plus assists.
I can almost guarantee I have the over here by a lot. I have him.
I think so too.
It was rebounds. Yeah, rebounds plus assists. I have him at 11.9 rebounds and then 3 assists.
Right.
So
right, yeah, way over on that. 90 to 110 points, 90 on the over. And then I like this one as well. DeMar DeRozan, points, rebounds, assists, 30.5.
I have him at like 33 or 34, so I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'm going over here too. I think 33, 34 sounds about right to me. All right. I like this site, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's pretty fun. Absolutely. And it makes you think a little bit more too, because they have sharp lines, sharp prop lines, and then the point totals make it even more difficult to make your choice. But I think if you know the game, this is a site where you can actually find an edge. It's thrivefantasy.com. I really do think there is an edge to be had here, because a lot of people are just going to flip through it and not really pay much attention to the point totals. And there are ways that you could say, all right, you know what, this one's a total toss-up. I'll go with the one that's worth 50 more points.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also there's their strategy, because you choose which ones you're going to play. Like you don't play every prop. So there's strategy there as well.
Exactly. All right. Hey, we love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Long show, but a dandy. Before you head out, if you enjoyed the show, if you appreciate the content, hit that thumbs up button for us. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when all the shows are going to be going live. Adam and I'll see you back here at 5:00 Eastern time for the deeper dive, followed by the live before lock show with Eddie and Chris. Have a good day. We'll catch you back here at 5.